What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 45 of our Dota On Demand podcast, highlighting Magnetar and the aftermath of 6.75. What's going on, man?
What's going on, dude? We're back to two this week. We have we've lost our extra appendage we've been carrying around for I could call it dead weight. That wouldn't be fair to say. You know, he was
Zombie weight.
Zombie weight seems a little accurate, but no, it's good to be back for another week of discussion. Like you said, we're going to be talking about this large horned. How many innuendos are we going to use this evening? I mean, it's going to be quite a few, I'd think.
We typically have to give the spoiler alert disclaimer, but this time, if serious number of innuendo will offend you, just a guy that talks about his horn an awful lot did just enter Dota 2, so there's your warning, okay? Both of us males in our 20s, so it's not looking good to keep this serious by any means. But yeah, it should be good, man.
Yeah, so I guess what we're going to kind of discuss tonight, to go over briefly a little bit of notes. First of all, we're going to just talk more about the GEST that we've been casting. Then we're going to get in, as well as maybe other little things we've been doing on the side. And then we're going to get into, like you said, the aftermath of 6.75. So what we've seen both professionally as well as maybe personally in our own games of what's kind of happened ever since that patch. And then finally, we're going to probably finish up with, Mr. Horn himself. And then if there are questions along the way, people, then feel free to use them in chat and we will answer them rapidly. So, you want to start us off with GEST so far?
Yeah, sorry. I happen to be casting at a friend's house, and he happens to be creepily looking over the steps at me. So, pardon. It is. It's a little, I'm just going to scoot over the side of this, here. The GSC, it's been great. We actually are doing the Filipino qualifier tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 6 p.m. whatever. What do you remember?
SGT, Singapore time.
Yeah, there you go, Singapore time. In case you happen to be listening from there. But we actually just finished with the. I keep wanting to call it Malaysia.
The Singapore.
Oh,
qualifier. Yeah.
Hey, the Singapore qualifier. Yes, and that was actually a lot of fun. Fortunately, some of those games were a little one-sided, but it was actually kind of nice because that was the first time that you and I actually got to sort of see what 6.75 would really do to the professional scene, of course. Not only just as far as only having 2 starting bands, but also in just how different heroes were getting picked, didn't get picked, etc. What about that really caught you off guard?
The grand final. Well, okay, I guess I should get to that. I shouldn't jump the gun. That's obviously going to be one of my favorite parts of this discussion, but yeah. I will try to go at a slower pace. The band thing was really interesting. It really did show me some new strategies, some new techniques coming out, and especially with the Southeast Asia scene, which is of course what the whole GEST is all about. Seeing which heroes are really valued over other ones was definitely interesting. Like, for example, so many Templar Assassin bands in the first 4, and normally when there was 6 back in the day, I could have seen it because you had that luxury, you had that extra. But now that it's down to 4 and you're still banning Templar Assassin, means you really do not want the other team to have it, because apparently these players just use her so much and use her so well that she's just very strong. And I mean, it's just, I don't know, some of these bands just really caught me off guard like that.
Yeah, and I think that's something else to note too. Even going beyond what we've been doing, you look at the ESWC West qualifier, or the finals, not the qualifiers, pardon me. Like Bat Rider ban and the Templar Assassin ban, and sometimes both. For there being less bans, there seemed to be a lot more interest in these non-conventional heroes, and we were like, oh no, it's going to be these, these 4 heroes every single time, because now you don't have the room, like you were saying, you don't have that third band to sort of go with. Okay, we don't like Templar Assassin banner out. We were expecting, okay, Darkseer, Lycan maybe, and these other 2 that everybody hates, but no, it's actually still been pretty non-rigid, because I can't think of a fantastic word, but it's interesting. I think that was one of the big things that happened that I wasn't actually expecting, which is how important Batrider would actually become. They didn't really do anything too big to him. Casting animation time decrease. The strength gain, I think, is actually the biggest change. And of course, Firefly duration, and then the damage trail surviving past the Batrider in case he dies. But he's actually been pretty big of late.
Apparently the turn rate was huge. Now, I don't know, that might have only been like a Dota 1 change because of the system and how it works. I don't actually know if that was in Dota 2 as well. Because I personally, when I played him, although I only played Batrider maybe a handful of times, I didn't notice having too many issues with his turn rate. You know, I felt like it was pretty, like he could turn pretty well. But apparently, at least people in Dota 1 were saying that was a huge buff to him because he had so much trouble turning on the dime where he needed to with that Firefly ability. So apparently that was also a big change from some people's eyes. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's so funny how like in just a slight, well, not a slight change, but even like some of these semi-big changes, yeah, players just completely have a whole new outlook on these heroes. And even when the changes, like you said, weren't even like enormous. Like for Batrider, I wouldn't say enormous. I would say pretty good buffs, but it wasn't anything like, oh my god, now his ultimate like can do 2 heroes or something. Like, no, it's not like that crazy, but it's definitely, it's cool to like see. And the thing is, Batrider, when he first kind of came out, he was getting picked up every now and then, and teams were like, because in Dota 1 I know he was actually a kind of common pick, used against heroes like Anti-Mage, Faceless, heroes that you really wanted to lock down. And then he just kind of fell off for a while, but now he seems to definitely making his way back in.
Yeah, I think it's neat because when we did sort of start to see teams messing around with him, it was sort of like, can we rush the Blink Dagger? Can we actually do that? Because Batrider, fairly squishy. I mean, you have to jump in right on top of somebody and then try and drag them out and hope you survive that whole duration. And so I think that's actually the really nice part about boosting that strength growth. But, you know, you figure that's not even 6 whole strength by the time you can use your ultimate. But yeah, we got to see a couple of them just go right for that Blink Dagger. And it wasn't even that big of an issue. So it's interesting to see. Perhaps it's just, you know, the way that the compositions are working out more than any of these changes. But it is neat to see, even if it's just, oh, this hero got a little bit of buffs. Oh yeah, that guy, he's actually still pretty good. How about we try him again and, you know, seeing how it works out. I think the one that actually surprised me as far as big change was just getting to see Faceless Void come back.
Yeah, Faceless Void. I mean, he's not getting picked up like any other carries that's been, like, well, not like Morphling was or anything, but he's definitely starting to make his way back. And I think it's funny how one of his biggest changes that we were discussing was the fact that if Rubik steals the Chronosphere and uses it, he still doesn't get frozen by it. So like that, we were like, oh, well, that sounds like a cool change, but how often is Rubik going to be played against and blah blah. And it seems like every game I've watched almost has a Rubik on the other team, and I've seen that situation, I swear, happen at least once a game where Rubik steals it, freezes it, and then like gets himself or someone on his team killed because Faceless Void is still going through people and just wrecking them. It's a pretty sweet change. And then the time lock change as well. Yeah, doing twice as much damage when I procs on target Chronosphere. I mean, it might have even changed a lot of people's builds. You know, Mask of Madness was considered kind of a half troll item, kind of not, for the fact that it does give you that insane attack speed, but of course you take amplified damage. So if you used it during your Chronosphere and you didn't kill people, you might be dead afterwards. But, you know, maybe now there's more incentive to get that increased attack speed because you'll get more procs and you'll do more damage.
Yeah, and, you know, it's really, I think, nice that we got to see that. Unfortunately, again, at friend's house, forgot my notes. But we casted a game, and I even pointed it out during the cast, where Rubik steals the Chronosphere, places it back, and then actually locks their Chaos Knight in the Chronosphere, and Faceless Void's like, alright, I'll just go kill him, annihilates him before it's over. So he essentially got caught in it twice as long, taking that extra bonus damage from the Faceless Void. And, you know, it's certainly much more difficult to try and make that effective against the Faceless Void or against the Faceless Void's team if you are that Rubik. And it's really just kind of interesting to see. I mean, he wasn't really popular even before, like right before Rubik came out, so it's not like you can say, well, Rubik came in and broke Faceless Void, so that's why we don't see him anymore. But it is neat to see that now he's actually kind of coming back in these situations where it's like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. We can still, even though they're going to steal one of our big ultimates, we'll still be able to fight effectively in it.
Yeah, no, it definitely it's a nice change, and it's not, and Rubik he's going to stay a popular hero throughout any kind of meta, just for the fact that ultimate can just scale with anyone. The fact that you can steal any spell from anyone is just insane. It can have a lot of perks. So, yeah, I think we'll definitely see a lot more of that interaction with the time coming. I also just have to give props to Dota 2 Wiki. How cool is it that it tells you the recent ability change log and all this stuff? Like, if you aren't even sure about what changes happened with them recently, you just scroll down to the bottom. It's like, oh, there's all the recent changes. That's it comes in handy, especially for people who don't do 100% research for certain things. Just 100%,
If you become so sure of yourself, like, what fun is there? I mean,
right.
Exactly. I find backing myself into a corner to be some of the most fun I ever have. So, you should just do it as often as possible. Yeah, and I also feel like we just plug these guys all the time. But it is a fantastic site, that Dota 2 Wiki, if you guys haven't checked it out. I always just like watching it for the unreleased hero status, because they tell you based on the files that they've been able to data mine out of the game, which heroes are most likely to come in and Centaur War Chief Medusa.
Dude, there's also trivia. There's also trivia.
And there's the trivia, which is
in
also
Dota
great.
All-Stars, Faces Void's alternate fun name is Gorzerk. So now you know that he was originally a Gorzerk, part of the Gorzerk family. Probably first of his kind, and
maybe.
Now there's no debating that, because we can't.
How many faceless people are there?
I've only seen one.
Each other. I mean, you can never get definite answers. But anyway, but any other heroes really been catching you off guard this week?
Oh yeah, so I want to now get back into that grand final for the Singapore qualifier. Couple interesting picks in that. The first one, obviously, being Alchemist. Getting finally picked up. I say finally, meaning I was really hoping for it, but as a complete joke. And of course, not until the grand final of the qualifiers does he make his debut, and he made it with style. Now, I can't honestly go and say he won the game for his team. I'm going to say it was definitely all three lanes doing well, and it definitely allowed him. The thing when you pick a hero like Alchemist, or any real hard farm, is that I think you call it the 4-1 strategy, 4 protect 1 strategy or something, where essentially the other 4 people are doing so good in the other lanes, like distracting the enemy team, pushing, putting pressure, that one, the farmer, he basically just gets to do as he pleases, and he gets so much farm and so many items that he just wrecks you in the mid-late game. So that's exactly what happened, and it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing about that Alchemist is he's really sort of brought the new Shadow Blade up into prevalence. We got to see it in that game. You mentioned in the cast you had seen it somewhere else, and actually, again, if you want to look at those ESWC finals, Sven was picked up, and Shadow Blade was built on him as well. So just getting that extra movement speed is apparently, of course, the invisibility as well, is fantastic, and it's sort of like, I've always thought that it'd be neat to have the Blink Dagger on, like, the Alchemist, just so you can jump in on somebody and then stun them immediately. But, the Shadow Blade essentially does the same thing for you and also gives you some additional passive stats, which is really nice. But yeah, Alchemist definitely got huge buffs all around, so I really wouldn't be surprised if we see more of them.
Well, now I'm going to have to talk about a little personal anecdote. I did get to play him myself. I actually swapped with B Dunn because he got him from a random pick and said, guys, I am not playing this hero. And I'm like, I will step up to the challenge and I will gladly do such a thing. I ended up being solo mid against a Templar Assassin, which was pretty funny. And early on, actually, those early buffs, and this is when we went over them, what the changes were, a lot of his early game got buffed, which really helps him out. The mana cost reduced on his acid spray, as well as increasing the damage. Unstable Concoction now, being AoE, not showing to the enemy. All these changes really helped me come into play. And there was a big play, and B-Dun's been begging me before the show to say, you have to tell everyone about my glory, so my name forever is remembered. B-Dun, Rubik, apparently the best in the world. We were against a Magnus in that game. Magnus ulties 3 or 4 of us, B-Dun not being one of them, steals the Magnus ult, goes up to their team, ulties 3 or 4 of them. I throw my AoE concoction on top of it, and we just blow them up. And after that, B Dunn has never been the same person again. He's just, now that forever will be his play, which I hope. I don't think I would have to go back and watch the replay to show people because I wasn't casting, but it was pretty cool nonetheless. Pretty good spell to steal, I would say.
Yeah, it's a good one that will wind up
Reverse
discussing later too.
polarity.
Yeah, there you go. And that's actually a really cool thing too. When we did get to see the Alchemist in that game, we really got to see all of his buffs kind of come into play, even the AoE component to that stun. It happens a lot more often than you would expect it to, considering that it's a 175 area around the target of the explosion. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really he has a lot of potential now, especially just when you consider how effective Basher can be with the attack point of his ultimate. It starts to get pretty silly.
Yeah, I think actually I've seen it now. I've seen him played 2 or 3 times really competitively, and all the times Shadow Blade was one of his first items. It was like Soul Ring or Ring of Basilius, either one for mana regen. Then he would go Phase Boots into Vanguard most likely. If he didn't need Vanguard, then he might just rush this next item. But yeah, he would go that really quick Shadow Blade. Go and use that a lot for setting up stuns with his Unstable Concoction. Because obviously, it is a bonus 150 damage when you come out stealth, so that is okay, but it's not the greatest thing for him. But it really is to set up that stun to follow up with. And then he would go, like you said, he actually would go Abyssal Blade very often, because that base attack speed is now 1.0 at the 3rd rank. Just insanely fast attacks with like Assault Carriers or something else. He just goes nuts and just destroys people.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually really do like this because I think some of the other times we've seen him, and really like old Doomringer play as well, you just get that quick Radiance. And it's like, guys, I got Radiance, now I can start farming. And you're like, that's great, but it's 30 minutes into the game now. We'd really like you to have something other than Radiance. And you even just, again, just the Acid Spray making it a little bit easier for him to farm up in the early game. I mean, you really can go for those stat items, which just make your Chemical Rage that much better. I mean, he was already hard to take down in that Chemical Rage. You get the bonus movement speed, the health regeneration, but then you get something like you said, Vanguard, and you're even that much harder to take down. You can just run around in the fights trying to put out your stun. You make sure that the acid's out on everybody. I mean, he certainly does have some potential now, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of builds really look to try and go around him, because like you said, in that particular situation is really this thing where all your lanes are having success, so really how much of it is Alchemist. It's going to be really interesting to see if he gets pressed and you go, yep, Alchemist, that's what made this game happen, that's where the comeback came from.
All these games I've been watching, though, it's not just Alchemist, it's all these heroes. Like you said, Bat Rider, the other second Grand Final had Phantom Lancer, which I don't need to get into too much, but he got picked up, did very well. He was also against a Templar Assassin, who, actually we were starting to realize, like, oh crap, that's pretty awesome. Like, all those little images are beaten on her, those refractions come off so quick. And, I mean, there's just so many good reasons to pick him up. And he was such a nuker. Like, we first introduced him, I think, in our podcast. We were talking about the possible spammability of his throw, his javelin, because it's a pretty low cooldown. It's just pretty mana intensive. But the Phantom Lancer built a Soul Ring, one of his first items, and he was just able to keep spamming it and just keep people out of the lane. They couldn't keep up with how much damage he was putting out, and then eventually he got that defusal, and he kind of just took over the game from there. So another strong pickup.
The one that I think I'm kind of mentioned last week, if you guys tuned in to the cast, it really was about just the patch and yes, last one. Yeah. Anyway, I was pretty excited about Jakiro when we went over that, and just like, yeah, now we're gonna start seeing him, and it's gonna be great. And again, ESWC West Finals, you got to see BDLM actually play the Jakiro in 2 of the games, and it's really interesting to see, especially because, like I've mentioned before, Jakiro really was a fantastic hero when you were looking to go for those really hard and fast pushes. You put him with the Enchantress as well, and you really just look to gun down those towers. And the Liquid Fire is just so good. But something interesting, especially about how Betas looked to spend his points when he was playing it in both the games, was prioritizing that Ice Path, really trying to get the crowd control potential out of it up, and just going with the 1 point in the Liquid Fire and 1 point in Dual Breath as well. And I think it's really interesting to see how just the fairly big change that ability now just sort of changes the way Jakiro plays in a game and gives him the potential to sort of work in other lineups.
Actually, I've seen him picked up a lot beyond EG just playing. I'm actually talking about... I actually just casted earlier at Empire vs. Quap Top, and Jakiro was picked in one of those games as well. And the same thing, Ice Path seems to be one of his really favored moves to max out, just because the duration not only will keep someone stunned for 2.2, but that stays, I call it a frozen fissure. That frozen fissure, that path, stays there now for 2.2 seconds, allowing more time for people to run into it and get frozen up. So really, that leveling it up does have a good benefit, I'd say more so than it used to before this change. The liquid fire is still so powerful that it makes you want to level that up. I mean, getting it to 50% attack speed reduction for tower pushing is immense. You know, you could even backdoor. It's so easy to push towers with that. But all his abilities now seem strong. There isn't like a simple path anymore. I could really see you prioritizing any of the 3 abilities and having a good justifiable reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been playing the Jakiro a lot. Played some last night. I was actually trying some different tri lanes with him. Vengeful Spirit, Jakiro, Necrolite was one that was actually pretty successful, believe it or not. But anyway, he's just gotten so much more powerful. Yeah, and of course, I want to level up that Liquid Fire, me personally, because it's such an effective harass tool as well. You can so easily, because they increase the radius as well, catch a melee and his support to be able to put up the damage on both of those. So, yeah, I'm just so happy to see that he got those buffs, and I'm definitely going to be playing him a lot more.
I think a lot of people will. And I mean, the great thing also about him is support now that he's gotten these changes. First of all, Ice Path should probably always be your level 1 if you play him as a support. Like, maybe even in general. It does 100 damage, which is really good for a level 1 spell, and it's 100 AoE if you hit multiple people, and it has CC component to it. Like, just such an amazing spell. And the fact that it's 1100 range on top of that lets you snipe out people. So definitely a great spell. But, you know, I was watching the different games that he's been played in. A lot of them, I'd say majority, are aggressive tri-lanes. Like, just to the fact that, like, it's a far-range move. It's, like, similar to, like, thinking about getting an Earthshaker just for the fissure. Well, now he's an Earthshaker that doesn't necessarily block a path, but helps you slow people down, and then does all that extra damage on top of it. Like, really nice AoE hero. He also does well in duo lanes too. Like, he can fit a lot of different support roles, even a roaming role with that Ice Path. Like, he just now, I think, really fits in to any kind of lineup, pushing or not, and I think we're definitely going to see a lot more of him as we go on.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned just how effective he can be in that the aggressive tri-lane, like you're saying. I mean, that I feel like was always sort of that niche for Jakiro. He was always so good if you could hit things on multiple people. I mean, you look at the crowd control duration on Ice Path, not really that long. At the max, it's 2.2 seconds. You compare that to some other stuns, it's okay. But, hey, if you hit 3 people with it, that's fantastic. The same with Macropyre. It's a lot of damage if you can hit a lot of people with it and keep them in place long enough. And the same with Dual Breath. And they really just, I think, maximized that. They took it a step further. Hey, now you can run into the Ice Path. Now the Dual Breath has a greater radius, goes further out. And then, of course, the increased AoE on Liquid Fire. So, good stuff, good stuff.
It's a big AoE now. That is a big buff. It was, I think it doubled the radius to 350. Or no, it's 300, but that's like, it's really noticeable how big that radius is for sure. You know, you can basically hit a melee creep, it'll hit the range creep in the back as well now, as well as any heroes hide back there. So, yeah, definitely nice to have that all around. So, I'm in love with I enjoy playing him as a support. That says something. I will pick him to support with. And that's going a distance. Oh god, now I have to give another shout out. I should have said this in the beginning. This Friday, BDLM unfortunately has to work, or he would have been joining me. But I don't know if you guys have heard of the Dota 2 Staff Cup that happened recently. It had joined Dota members like Toby, it had Purge, it had all the big name casters, IC, you name it. Now there's the other Dota 2 Staff Cup. That's happening this Friday night, 5 p.m. PST or 8 p.m. EST. If it's another time zone, you can convert it, because I'm only doing those two. But either way, I will be participating for the NA Casters team with Mont. You should know him by now. He joined us in one episode. As well as some other names, NY John, What Is Hip. I don't know if you know these other people. It's like the next tier of casters. It's an honor to be invited, to be frank. You know, I mean, yeah, we're with a bunch of people a lot of people don't know. But hey,
it's the up-and-coming tier.
Exactly. That's the way to look at it. You know, we are the next in line to be in that tournament next year. That's all. You know, we're biding our time. But we're actually also being considered the Cinderella story, the underdogs, or at least I'm calling us that because of the people. There was a big post about it, and all the comments talk about, you know, the top 3 teams, this, and this, and like no one even mentions our team once for any of that stuff. So like, you know, I'm just like, dude, guys, we have to practice, and we are going to upset all these teams and bring home the glory for NA casters.
There you go. So be sure to tune in to watch that. Again, I wish I could be there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun either way. You know, joking aside.
You know, yeah.
But anyways, I just wanted to go, and that's going to be on Kawa TV or Draskell. Kawa and Draskell are the casters for that. So check that out. I might even post it. I think I posted it on Facebook. Pretty sure. So go there and check it out. Yeah.
They're good. We always try and put that good stuff on the Facebook.
Yeah.
What else did you want to mention before?
Spiritbreaker. The fact that now I've gotten to play him personally and see him played. I don't think I've seen him in a competitive game since the patch, unfortunately. So I can't talk about that too much. But as a personal game level goes. Yeah, he's just like I think he's finally designed the way he was meant to be designed from the get-go. He's now this gank hero, bursty, good to set up kills. Like, and I think that was his main purpose. And in late game, he can still scale and do pretty well. The fact that his bash is now what scales with damage with his movement speed instead of just his passive. And I was trying to make an argument for now going Oghanims on him instead of before, because I'm like, hey man, his ulti now scales with his bash, which scales with his movement speed, so maybe Oghanims can have potential this game. Not for the AoE purpose, mind you, for purely the lower cooldown reason. It lowers it substantially. I believe it's like 40 seconds off it or something, down to like 20 or something. Probably should have done a little research there, but the point is, I thought it could be interesting, but I know you were shaking your head, and I think a lot of people would agree with you that's still not a worthy item on him.
It was a good attempt, though.
It was. This would have been the ultimate time to get it. If not after these changes, when would you?
Yeah, it is 20 seconds with the Oghanims, down from 75 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, just even burstier. But yeah, I mean, the other stuff, I mean, there's so many other items to build on him that I feel like I'd want.
Like Mask of Madness, clearly.
Clearly. I mean, that's all you can do. You're forced into that item. It's a core item, so says the recommended list. So you can't go away.
But I think he is designed now, and I really do want to see some teams just try him in a kind of gank, like maybe him and a Night Stalker on the same team or something crazy. I don't know how to pull it off. Well, there was that one game before the patch, and that really didn't work. When I think it was Darer that tried it or something, it really didn't work. But either way, could be interesting. And then finally, I had one more hero I'd like and listed. Seeing him after the patch, obviously people were like, "Oh God, nerf to the ground. He'll never see daylight again." And actually, competitive scene wise, that's actually true. Yeah, I haven't seen him picked or banned as of late. I know if I do see him picked though, he does go in the lane more often than the jungle now, because you know, he was kind of difficult to even like try to keep like harass him in the jungle or something before. Those wolves are just so tanky, but now that they're so weak, anyone can just go in there. A couple roamers from a lane, or even he has trouble by himself just killing things with those weak wolves. So it's he's a lot more difficult to do that. And I think here's the thing, he's still a really good pusher, and he's still really good mid-late game. He just needs to get his farm from the lane instead of the jungle early on. That's really the big difference.
And you know, that's something I think we even saw in the Singapore qualifier. It's not like he's bad in the lane. I mean, I think he was always fantastic in the lane just because of the amount of harassment potential he has with those wolves. You can also block very easily or not easily, but you can block with those wolves to have your own sort of slow component there. But it's just fine for him to be there. We just always have seen him in the jungle because he can do it so well, and then of course he can sneak Roshan a lot easier if you're not able to keep tabs on him in the lane. But you know, still a very viable hero. It's just now you have to play him a little bit differently. And, you know, like you said, the professional tier may not be interested in trying to do that, but at least we've seen some of these sort of up-and-coming teams be really interested in running him a different way.
Yeah, so Yeah, we'll definitely have to see if teams that maybe go hard push again decide to pick him up for that short lane. Like instead of an anti-mage farming, now you have Lycan farming, and you just protect him. I mean, it's just and then he can even once he gets, I'd say, level 2 or 3 or 4 of his wolves, he can then go back in the jungle because he can help tank at that point. He has enough items, but it's just too hard early on for him to really do what he used to be able to do. That's the main difference. But I think that's all I really had as far as hero changes that I saw personally. Did you see any other ones?
Nope.
Excellent.
So there you go.
Oh, I also wanted to see, these are things I should have done in the beginning, and this is where notes help. I wanted to apologize for last week's episode for the fact that I was using apparently the mic from my camera, and the quality was atrocious. So I apologize for not knowing that, and it should be much better this week if you don't notice. But that's what you get when you get a new camera and don't fidget with everything. So apology out there.
It happens.
Do what you will.
I actually had that problem myself when I got this guy up here.
Oh, did you?
Just, yeah, what can you do? But yeah, I guess now we have to do Magnus. I'm actually really depressed because we gave that big disclaimer about all the horn jokes, and we haven't made one yet.
Yeah, but I'm pretty horny to talk about it.
All right. It's okay.
That's the one. The token.
Hopefully they'll come a little bit more easily. But you know, regardless, let's get this guy. He has a melee strength hero. Has pretty average strength gain. 275, 25 for the agility, 165 for the int. And I guess you know what, you actually have been really looking forward to the Magnus. So how about you introduce him, my friend?
Oh, that's very generous of you. First of all, his name is Magnus the Magnosaurus. So just gotta give him his full name.
I did not know that. Can I?
That apparently is his name. So he was in Dota 1. He was a Magnetar. That's probably Blizzard related in some way or not. So now he is a Magnosaurus. Good to know. I think I'll try to play this song here, or this.
Prepare to be gored.
There we go. Play the "Prepare to be Gored" clip. Everyone now has heard his famous line. Although it doesn't involve a horn, so that's a little upsetting. But
he is a little creepily interested in his own horn, I would say. You click around with him for about 30 seconds, and you're like, dude, chill. It's PG. Let's keep this PG.
Can you blame him? And actually, that's funny. There was a Reddit post, and it was a picture of like what Magnus, he does a painting and what it looks like once he paints, and the picture is just like 3/4. The middle of it is his horn. And then there's like a little bit of bushes on the sides of his horn, and then maybe the title was like "My View of the World" or something. Like all you can see is this huge horn in his face. Look at the picture; it's literally blocking yes, BDLM.
That's all the girls can see too.
That's all they can see. Really, it might be compensating for something, but
maybe.
But anyways, so now we got a few more of those jokes out of the open here. We'll move on to his abilities. Shockwave. Awesome. Conal Nuke. Don't stack 90 mana cost. Damage increases as we go. Empower. So basically he casts a buff on himself or an ally that overlasts 40 seconds with a 12-second cooldown. And it gives damage and cleave. As you level it up, it gets higher bonuses. Skewer. Pretty interesting move. Using his large horn. He rushes forward up, to 800. I'm reading this very strange. I'm like putting the emphasis on the wrong words here. He rushes forward up to 800 distance, goring enemy units on his massive tusk. It says it in the description, folks. I can't make this up. Units hit on the way will be dragged to the destination, then damaged and slowed. So he starts out only hitting one person. That goes up to 4 as you rank it up. A 30-second cooldown, so you can't spam this or anything. It's a great escape. Well, we'll get into that later. That's what it does. It does damage and slows. And then his ultimate, Reverse Polarity. This is kind of one of the main reasons you pick him right here. So basically, I'm trying to think of the best way. It's like a vacuum on top of yourself. So you don't cast it. You just cast it, and everyone in a radius around you gets sucked on top of you and then stunned for a duration. And it does damage. And it starts at a 2-minute cooldown, goes down to 100 seconds. And the disable works on magic immune units as well. So that's a quick summary, a quick guide to Mr. Magnus the Magnosaurus.
The Magnosaurus. That one caught me off guard. I did not realize that he was a Magnosaurus.
Yes.
Alright, I'll try to get past it. I really will. I think one of the other things that when you really start to look at his abilities, and he has static mana costs across the board, except for the ultimate. It actually increases as you go. But Skewer, Empower, Shockwave all have flat mana. So anything past level 1, it just gets easier to cast your abilities, just because you're naturally going to be getting more intellect, as well as any items you pick up. And that's, I think, really fantastic when you think about him being a strength hero. You don't really have to be entirely concerned with the amount of farm you're getting in order to be able to get the full use out of your spells.
Yeah, it is really nice to have these stack man costs. I mean, he does get 1.65 intelligence per level, so it's not the biggest gain, but I mean, I guess I might as well start going into item builds. I like to see because it kind of relates directly to this. Very, very commonly, Soul Ring will be a staple item on a hero like this. Now, first of all, he's not played support. At least I haven't seen him successfully played support. He should get farm on some kind of level. I could possibly see an argument for support, but it wouldn't be as good as others, I believe. So, anyways, I prefer him as a farmer, and therefore Soul Ring shouldn't be hard to acquire. Get your boots up. And then from there you have so many different options. I would say Blink, if you're going for that initiation on your team. Very important, because you can just blink on their team, use that reverse polarity, stun everyone up, suck them on top of each other, then drop all of your
suck them on top of your big horn.
There you go. That was a pretty decent one. We'll get better as we go, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice item. There's other suggestions. The situational is kind of funny almost. It's like Battle Fury, Daedalus, Heart, Assault, Mask of Madness, God knows why, and then Refresher Orb, just for lulz. Like a Tide Hunter in that regard, if you want to do that. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any differences on items or opinions?
I am really torn between. I mean, it's really that sort of argument that you have with most heroes with these sort of big ultimates. Blink Dagger, or can you get away with just the speed? And you look, I think, at Enigma, and now he's this hero where it's like, yeah, you'd like to get the Blink Dagger, but you kind of need some abilities first, because you can't just sit and channel. So his is more of a survivability thing, where you want to get the mech before you get the Blink Dagger. You look at heroes like Tiny, where I think when you look at the sort of the pub scene, you want to go, yeah, let's blink in right on top of people, avalanche toss. But then you go to the professional scene, it's, no, we can actually get away with just the movement speed. So he's kind of weird. I'm still sort of on the fence about it. I really sort of do like, I love the drums. I think it's a fantastic item to get on them, just because that gives you your main stat as far as the bracer's concerned, and then also gives you the int as well, and then movement speed, which is fantastic. And I also like getting the tranquil boots personally. I mean, I'm not as interested in farming them up as you are, Jay. I certainly think that really, if you're looking to pick them, it's about the utility. If you're going to look for damage, I feel like you go for other heroes, but I'm sort of leaning more towards the movement speed, and I would go that way, I think, mostly because of the skewer, just generally being able to move around more, being able to potentially gank more, being able to get better positions, because the one thing about the skewer is like, yeah, it's great, it has this 40% slow, but if you're anywhere close to the person and you skewer them in the wrong direction, the 40% slow isn't really going to matter. You essentially help them get away.
Very true. Yeah, you have to use that definitely in the proper direction. And then the maximum number of targets. That's the thing. It's random. It's not only heroes, it's creeps as well. So you really have to use that properly to maximize efficiency. And at the early ranks, when it's only one target, the odds of getting the person you want gored up there, probably not going to happen that well. So that one definitely takes some finesse and is a little bit challenging. Obviously, the Shockwave being his easiest move to use. Well, Empowered probably a little easier, since you just have to cast it on an ally himself. Not going to say. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, actually, in the farming. I don't think he should be your main source of damage. I like him in the sense that, like, you can just empower you. I like him with a hard carry on his team, that one that benefits from the cleave and the bonus damage, because you can just empower both himself and the ally, and you end up both doing a crap ton of damage in team fights.
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of want to compare him to Tide Hunter. And he's this hero where it's like, I feel like you can get away with not getting any farm on him, and you can do just fine because of the amount of utility. And you can sort of at that point just be like, hope that you can get decent reverse polarities. And the fact that you have skewer, I mean, yeah, it's great if you want to use it to try and slow somebody, but like you were sort of wanting to go into earlier, it's a great escape mechanism. It's also really great to help you get that reverse polarity, even if you're not able to pick people up. If you're just able to get yourself into a better position into the middle of the enemy team, then you can reverse the polarity and use that to initiate. So it's like this thing like Tidehunter where, okay, you don't need the farm, you can be just fine. If you do get the farm, though, that's also really fantastic because then you can really get yourself in the perfect position with a blink dagger or something.
Yeah, that's very true. Oh,
sorry.
What a bait. Okay.
No, go ahead. But I got something to after. Go ahead.
Great. God, now I don't even really remember. Oh, you were comparing them to Tidehunter. I mean, they both have really, really good teamfight ults, but obviously the main difference is Tidehunter Ravage is a huge radius, whereas this one, 410. It's less than half. So you really have to be concise where you drop this ulti, and if you don't get that blink and you're trying to initiate with it, you could do I agree. The skewer does allow you to kind of travel across a little better, but it's still, you really have to position yourself so well to get the most out of that spell. So I don't know. I just, are you suggesting he could be played as a support or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like that is a viable role for him as a hero. If you just look at him, I mean, you can also get in this thing. If you're comparing him to Tidehunter, why do you pick him over Tidehunter? I mean, you can certainly say the Empower is a fantastic ability, and this is the other thing that I want to mention, just off the back of you saying that you like putting him with another hero. I actually happened to see a Magnetar with a Skeleton King, which is hilarious, because the crits in an area are just vicious, and it's fantastic, and then you just bump up that base damage, or the bonus damage, which will increase your crit damage as well. So it really works well with heroes that have that crit mechanic. But yeah, it's this thing, I'm still really not sure if I like him as far as playing him in even like a high level, just because I think when you compare him across the board, what does he bring to the table, and what kind of lane do you really want to run him in? The Empower, you and I had discussed actually this week, you can use it on a range hero too, just for the base damage, and you just negate the cleave, but obviously you want him to be with a melee hero, so let's say you put him with a melee carry, well, then you're definitely going to want him in a tri-lane, because you wouldn't want to just stick two melees together. So can he really function in a tri-lane? I almost feel like that might be one of the better places to put him, to be honest.
I might agree and I might not. I just love Shockwave in general. I think it could work in any kind of situation. It just does so much damage for such a mana efficient spell. It actually, Nature's Path in the chat did bring up a good point of how you might not need a Soul Ring just because of the fact that these are static spells, and Soul Ring gives you, I believe it's 150 mana. So if you just use a Shockwave, you kind of have to use an Empower or Skewer to really make the most of it, or else that's a bunch of mana that you're just wasting. You can't get two Shockwaves off. So maybe you just need some kind of mana. Either an ally gives you Arcane Boots, or you go Arcane Boots, or Ring of Basilius. I just feel like you need some kind of mana regeneration. But the Tri-Lane's interesting, and I was actually starting to now think about how he could do as maybe that Tri-Lane support is like pulling creeps, getting levels that way, and he could even stack jungle stuff for himself, and then eventually with Shockwave and Empower leveled up, he could clear those out, like, not terribly difficult, with spamming Shockwave and using the cleave. It could happen. He could get farmed that way if the team would allow for it.
Yeah, it's just, again, you compare him across the board at some of the other heroes you have, and especially I think Tidehunter is the big one. And I can't really see Magnus coming into really the professional scene at all, but I definitely do think he has a really fantastic kit. And I like the Basilius. I think that's a fantastic way to go, because that also will just help encourage you to go for Vladimir's Offering, which is just such a fantastic item in the first place, and then it also makes a ton of sense when you're this melee strength hero. You can actually benefit from that lifesteal quite fantastically. And that's also going to really help you push, which, what do you know, your Empower happens to be pretty good at helping with this as well.
The only time I saw him professionally, this was back in Dota 1. I mean, obviously he's not even in captain's mode yet, so we can't even tell. But he was played middle the couple times I saw him. He was solo mid, and he went that bottle really quick, and he would just try to get rune control, spam the crap out of Shockwave to harass the middle hero down. And, you know, that would work against most heroes, I would say. Invoker TA he would struggle with, I would say, for sure. A lot of heroes, actually, I would say he'd struggle with Quap as well. Anyone that can really avoid the damage from that Shockwave, because without the Shockwave, he's got nothing else. He doesn't have any solid harass, and that Shockwave itself is sort of easy to dodge. You know, it depends on, I guess, the latency and how you're playing. But the middle could be a decent role for him as well. Obviously, as soon as he hits 6, he has Skewer for the Russian, and then using his ultimate. You know, very good ganking for other lanes. So, I don't know, it's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing they really sort of have like an issue with, I guess you could say that with the skewer, you're moving quickly, so that you get some sort of range effect out of that. But it's really the only thing you have as far as helping to gank is a 40% slow that lasts for 2.5 seconds. It's really not even all that long. And if you I'm gonna get us in a lot of trouble here. You ready? You ready? If you compare them across heroes in other games like League of Legends, the hero Poppy actually has sort of a similar ability to the Skewer, if you want to think of it in that regard, except for the fact that it has a stun component to it as well. So I don't know. I'm not a fan, I guess is the bottom line here I'm trying to say. But I definitely think there are ways you can take advantage of his abilities. I definitely think between the Empower really and the Revolt Polarity, there is some potential to have some great combinations.
Belinda's ears burned when you saw you said League of Legends in the chat. She's just like, huh? LOL? LOL? Did you say LOL? And actually, it's funny. The first time I was playing him, I didn't necessarily read Skewer that closely because from Dota 1 he didn't have Skewer. He had Cleave and Empower were 2 separate moves. Now they've rolled him into one, which is why he's such a better hero in general. But I was trying to use Skewer like Poppy's charge, where I was trying to stun him into an object like a tree or something. I'm like, there we go, he's going to be stunned now or something. And nope, didn't quite happen that way.
I think that would be really a fantastic way of making him perhaps a little bit more viable. I don't know. I mean, then you can get into some dangerous stuff of, I just blink dagger behind somebody and then charge them into a tree. And you know, I mean, that might be just the way that Skewer works now might be another really good
Goblin
reason.
Shredder, buddy. Goblin Shredder. It's coming. Don't you worry. That tree interaction will be here shortly.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. But, yeah, I really am torn. It's this thing where I'm not really sure if he's quite so good that I'd actually want to use him, but he's not bad. It's this thing where I don't know if I want Blink Dagger or if I just want to use the movement speed, although I lean towards movement speed. He's this hero that I'm just really unsure about, and he doesn't fit one specific role so well that I could be like, yeah, I'm going to go to Magnus for this, you know?
Yeah, I suppose. I really do like his ult. I feel like it's a great team fight move. The rest of it, take it or leave it. I mean, a conal nuke, you know, a buff to your team, Skewer, But, you know, I really love reversal polarity, so that would be the only reason I would truly pick him. And it's funny, you were talking about with Skeleton King. I played a game with Terps. I don't know if you were in or not when he picked Phantom Assassin and I was Magnus. And I empowered the Battle Fury buffed, I should say, Phantom Assassin. Remember, Coup de Grace did get that 0.5% extra crit chance or damage. I believe it is, not crit chance. But yeah, that's. It was hilarious, need to say. She got like 1 crit, because it's 50% extra bonus damage, or I should say it's not bonus damage, it's from your base damage. And then on top of that, 50% extra cleave on her Battlefield, which is 35. She's almost 100% damage cleaving for a bajillion damage. It's quite the spectacle.
And, you know, that's something we didn't really discuss when we were talking about it too. The great thing about Empower is the duration is 40 seconds and the cooldown is 12 seconds, so you get it up on multiple targets. Mm-hmm. You can put it on creeps if you feel like pushing. I did it, right? Like, if you're by yourself and you're like, I got the time to push, let's go. It's 40 mana, throw it on a creep, why not? And it'll help you push a little bit harder.
It's like, at the max rank, 50% bonus damage to a creep. That does, what, 18, is it? So he gets 9 bonus damage?
Oh, it does more than 18, doesn't it?
It's
like 30.
I'm gonna go ahead and it can't be a whole lot more than what I'm saying. Here we go, 19 to 23. So you're... Okay, let's just assume max damage here, right? Yeah. He hits for 23 plus 50%, so he's nailing you for roughly 36 before reduction instead of that 23. I mean, if that's not worth it powering, and the cleave. So you're doing that extra 18 damage now to the people around that. I mean, it's almost imbalanced. Almost, it's borderline.
You could say so. You could certainly say so. Whether or not it be true or not, that's a whole separate thing.
Oh God! Thank you for that contribution.
I'm glad.
I'm glad people really know why you should not play Magnus when we are playing.
I'll be honest. All this support talk, I actually really want to play him now.
Oh God! Not as no. Oh boy.
Well, in the tri lane.
So who is he supporting? And who is the carry in that case? And are you running him with Jakiro then? Jakiro's like the new Visage, the new god of the tri-lane, I feel like.
Okay. Here's where we get into the physics, the sort of the paradoxes. If you ice path and then you skewer someone into it, do they get stunned?
Yes.
And Jakiro has a blue head, right? So what if we somehow mount Jakiro on the horn? So now he has a blue head, looks almost exactly like Poppy, except a lot more awkward looking.
Oh God.
And much larger.
Oh God. Why?
It.
No, we need a displacement tri-lane. So we need Darkseer with Vacuum, we need Magnetar, and we need Disruptor. And then you've really just won the game. You've pretty much broken all science at that point.
Actually, I think the Skelly King Magnus might actually be really strong in that situation because then you have some additional stun. Jakiro works. Yeah, go Jakiro. And
he is the new Visage, man. He's the new guy of the tri-lane, I swear. And at least he's like picked, unlike Visage ever was. So that poor guy. I don't know what changes they need to make to him. I don't think they do. I really don't think they could really change him too much. It's just the fact that I think he might either be too difficult for people to get really good with, or there's just these other supports are just so much easier and doing things so much better. It's kind of unfair to him, but
yeah, I mean he did just get that buff, and he did get a little bit of a buff actually, to several of his moves in his basement. But yeah, anyway, I think what else you got? I think we're doing pretty good, though.
There's definitely one little segment here that I'm going to throw off guard, or you're going to be caught off guard with.
Fantastic. I do so well when I'm caught off guard.
Well, okay. Do you want me to do that, or do you want me to do these discussions of these lineups that I was going to tell you about? All right, here it is. It's either these Dota game lineups, or it's about something about you personally. Which one do you want to choose first? They're both happening.
Truth or dare? I don't surprise me. I'll make it work.
Going with you first. And by the way, this is constructive criticism hour. That's all this is. This is no insults, nothing like that. Purely here for constructive criticism. And I hope you have something to toss my way back afterwards, if you do. But I have casted with you so many times now. It's been glorious. But, and I've actually been now counting this episode, the number of times you use the word fantastic. Do you want to know what tonight's episode, what that number's gotten to?
Is it in the 20s?
Not quite.
Alright.
You're working there.
It's definitely double digits.
Yes.
13.
It's just 10. 10 in one episode. When we cast games, that is your go-to word. Now, I want this to be a constructive place. Viewers, feel free to chime in. We need to work on synonyms for the word fantastic. So BDLM has them written in a list when he's casting and just glances over and says, that was tremendous right there, J4Y. I really, appreciate that.
Fantastical.
Fantastical. That's way too close. Marvelous. Spectacular. Awesome. Great. Look at this chat. They're already just jumping here.
Oh, you guys are so polite.
See, this is what I'm talking about. It's just I'm just trying to work on self-improvement,
like
things I can notice. Oh, this is what you fantasize about? That's kind of weird, but
whenever
synonyms.
It's that big horn. It just.
Oh, there we go. Let's tie that back in just to really get this back on track.
Move it back around. Okay. Well, all right.
Be done. I didn't read yours because yours was effing fantastic, and that is actually the same thing except putting a curse word in for it. so it doesn't really count. But anyways, I just wanted to point it out in the personal... Do you have any for me now? Do you have anything to toss?
You just suck overall. So
okay, well, is there anything I could... This is constructive criticism. Is there anything I could improve on that you notice?
Suck less.
Okay, well, thank you. That was a wonderful contribution. So now we're going into things that actually aren't going to hurt my feelings too much. I wanted to first... you jerk. Navi played Shakira... Or no, they played Darer. Well, they played both of them today. But either way, it's for the Gosu League. And I'm referencing personally Navi versus Darer. And Dendi picked up Dazzle mid. And you'll never guess the item he built. Try, though. And it's not Dazzleator because that would be too obvious. Sorry.
Mjolnir? No.
No, you get 2 more guesses.
Salt Curious.
Nope, 1 more.
Is it like an attacky item? Is the image an attacky item? Is it?
That's too hard for me to answer. Sorry.
It's hard for me to answer.
1 last guess, and you've got to nail it here, buddy.
I want to say Abyssal Blade, but
are you saying Abyssal Blade?
The pressure. The pressure. Yes.
It's not. He got an armlet. Armlet Dazzle. Yes, you heard me right. Armlet Dazzle.
Oh!
So, he never dies. The new buff... Yeah, the chat, that's right. What is right? Never would have thought about it. I mean, the first shock in general was just seeing this Dazzle mid, right? I mean, how often do we see Dazzle in general? Then to see him solo mid, which I've always preferred him personally, but I thought it was just noob. Like, what the heck? Who would ever actually play that hero mid, right? And actually, his Poison Touch did get buffed in this patch, and now the 4th rank brings it down to a 7-second cooldown instead of 9, so it gets a couple extra. Purge was casting the game, and he was saying that was such a big change for him, which I didn't know about that, but apparently now it's worth leveling it. But yeah, the armlet. Pretty darn interesting.
That is something else. But yeah, I mean, it's because, like you were alluding to, I think the fact that the toggle is so much easier to do. You really can make it a lot easier for you to survive in fights, and that is very interesting indeed.
With the Shallow Grave, and the fact that he had a lifesteal on his team that also had an armlet. They were just the team of never dying. It was awesome. And I really gave Navi kudos for putting that lineup together. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Alright.
So anyways, that was one thing. And
Okay.
I just had to throw it out there. The next thing, this was the lineup from the second game between Empire and Quap Top, which I casted. If you want to watch these, they're kind of a snore fest, so apologies to that. But it's on twitch.tv/GGNetJ4Y. Anyways, the lineup. Alright. So, Empire picks Templar Assassin. By the way, that's always going to happen because Scandal loves Templar Assassin. Leshrac, Undying, Clinks, and Jakiro. And then on the other team, it was Wisp, Enigma, Invoker, Chen, Necrolite. And it was Wisp and Necrolite short lane with Chen in their own jungle as like their tri-lane, quote-unquote. Why? Now here's... Yeah. Alright, I don't even know where to start. Do you want to start with the Undying stuff, or do you want to start with the Necrolite Wisp stuff?
What did Wisp build?
Wisp was pure support, and he didn't get enough money for a mech. He got like a couple bracers. I might have spoiled the outcome of the game, but he didn't get a lot of money. So, yeah. Okay, let's start with Wisp Necrolite. So, here was the interesting part as I was watching the draft. They let, of course, Scandal get his TA again. The first game... Empire picked Wisp themselves, but they picked it with Chaos Knight. And I'm like, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense. And he wrecked with the teleport. It was great, the ganks and everything. But then they pick Wisp Enigma with their first 2, and then they don't ever pick a hero that goes with Wisp for the rest of their draft. And I'm like, now, why do you pick Wisp as a support if you're not going to get a good gank? Necrolite? No. I'm sorry. Necrolite and Wisp... Why does that make sense to anyone? Can you just think of some reasons, please?
Because you Death Pulse the hurt Wisp, and the Wisp will actually heal Necrolite more with the tether.
Wonderful. So you double heal yourself, essentially, if you're that hurt.
If Wisp is hurt.
And Wisp is hurt. If you're that hurt that you need that much healing, and Wisp is hurt. Yeah.
Yep.
So, can you think of any real reasons, though? Not really, right?
Because Necrolite is an HP tank, if in some crazy universe Necrolite was getting close to death before Wisp was, you take Necrolite back to base, and then he's back up at full health, being an HP tank that he is, and he comes back and he's just like, oh, Aura, it's ticking so bad. Or twice as long.
It was awful. It was sad. And, like, I don't know, whenever I see a Wisp, I'm like, oh yeah, Tiny's still in the pool. They're going to go Tiny probably here, right? This makes sense, yeah. No. Oh, Necrolite. Why is that your last pick? Necrolite? Oh,
well, that's again something that we've seen, where you go the Wisp, and it's like, aha! You pick it just so you can't combo, and then you're like, crap, we have Wisp, what do we do?
Right, exactly.
Pray. You pray.
It was sad. Yeah, then the other team, though, was the aggressive tri-lane of Undying, Leshrac, and Jakiro against that Necrolite Wisp Chen.
I actually really like that, as far as push potential is concerned. Because the Tombstone is actually really fantastic at the 9...
New word. Come on, go to the list.
The Tombstone is amazing.
There we go.
For keeping the enemy team off of their own tower even. You just put the Tombstone behind it, and you have to worry about these zombies, and yeah, you can walk up to try and defend it, but really, if you're defending the tower, you're going to be wanting to sit next to it, maybe get some auto attacks off. The amount of time you have to spend next to that Tombstone, it's really difficult to do. So you have to focus on the Tombstone first. And you consider you have that with the Jakiro and a Liquid Fire as well as Diabolic Edict. That becomes a really powerful lane to take people out like that. That also has a lot of stun to help set up the Tombstone as well. I mean, you have a lot of stacks that you're getting from the slow. And then you figure the amount of damage just in bursts that Leshrac's going to be able to do with the Split Earth will also help get people into that Death Lust sweet spot.
That's a good way to put it, the sweet spot. Yeah, I mean, once you get below that certain threshold, yeah, they start going crazy, beating the snot out of people. And, you know, this isn't the first time Undying's been picked up. Actually, in the Ghostly League, a lot of teams are starting, not a lot, but a good amount of teams are actually starting to get interested in him. He's getting picked up again. He's making his comeback for the aggressive trialing. That's really where he's been placed once he is picked up. You know, using that ult, pushing like you said, and I didn't even realize it, but now I'm seeing it, how, yeah, like you said, just how great it is for both CC and pushing if they need to do both of that. And having that Templar Assassin in the mid to come in and gank when you get a rune or something, it's so simple. You know, he just easily can fly in there, throw a trap out to set up a really long duration slow, and they just pick people off left and right. It was just, really, they made it look easier than it probably should have been, but it was definitely great. And I was so excited, though, to see the Necrolite, because I'm like, oh yeah, he got buffed. Maybe he's going to be this awesome tank guy that does all this stuff, but it never came to fruition.
He's going to do all this stuff! Yeah, I mean, Undying actually did get a little bit of a buff in the last patch, because I just have it open in the background. The Decay Steal duration increased, the Decay AoE increased by 25, and the Tombstone Deathlust HP requirement also triggers if the target is below 5, 10, 15, 20% HP. So, yeah, but no, I mean, it is interesting. I actually really enjoy seeing him get picked up, and this even goes back as far as when we were originally sort of introducing Undying. We're like, this is one of those times where Undying actually sort of makes a ton of sense. It's the most sense he's actually ever going to make as far as the metagame is concerned, where even still now, probably in part due to the fact that the Dota 2 map is a little bit smaller than the Dota 1 map, games tend to be a little bit more aggressive. And he actually can really help teams that really do want a lot of aggression. And you're saying Templar Assassin mid, yeah, that's aggression written all over it. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so those are some cool things that I found, some snippets.
I like it a little bit better than the Necrolite Wisp. Just a smidge.
It was painful. I was so excited. I'm like, it's gotta be Tiny. I was like, because Chaos Knight got banned down the second round bans. I'm like, okay, they have to go Tiny. Like, who else are they gonna run with this aggressive? Maybe some other like Skelly King or throw something our way, but no, they go Necrolite. And it just did not work. That's a hero you don't pick just to have. You have to have some kind of lineup in mind when you pick that hero.
Yeah, still the only things I'm thinking of are if you were to get like the items on the Wisp to make the heal effective, because Necrolite, it really is just about keeping him alive throughout a fight. That's like his whole purpose is to stay alive, and you'll do A-OK. And Wisp is pretty fantastic at that, considering that he can pass along health. He's a great fella for passing along healing bonuses.
I'm gonna put some post-it. You need to make some post-it notes or something. We'll get you. We'll get you something.
I need help, Jay.
I need help, man. I'm broken. That's all I know. It's okay.
I feel like that's
pretty much it, though. It's a good way to wrap. Any other last horn jokes before we close this out?
I'm really horny to see who the next hero is.
Oh, me too, dude. Is there anything on the unreleased content that would tell us?
Centaur and Medusa appear to be the next two. Of course, we played with these heroes a while ago. I don't remember if he's always been like this, but this is something where I was looking over Centaur and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that only his stomp costs mana. Apparently Double Edge doesn't...
No, because you take health damage, they figure you don't need to spend mana.
Yeah, well, there you go. Fun fact. All you guys preparing for Centaur, and when I say it and try to sound smart on the next episode when he comes out, y'all can be like, BDLM, you're so stupid. You just figured this out last week. It doesn't matter. Don't try it.
Wait, return doesn't cost mana? His passive aura?
I know, it's ridiculous. You'd think
and now he gets a bonus. I forgot they buffed that based on his strength.
Oh, it's gonna be great. If that's
if only he's next.
If it's not Centaur next week, you guys don't have to tune in. But if it's Centaur, it should be a fantastic episode. So of course,
God, really? This is why I brought it up this episode. You understand now. You should start really realizing why I brought this up.
It'll be a great episode.
There it is.
Also, be sure to tune in to us tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. because we will be up and casting the Filipino qualifiers, which have been so looked forward to. It's crazy because those Filipinos just go nuts. They just kill everything and kill everyone, and it's apparently a good time. So be sure to wake up with us 6 a.m. or stay up, depending on where you are in the world, to join us for that. And you can find that on twitch.tv/Dota Talk stream. Of course, like Jay was saying, watch him on Friday. That'll be awesome. And I'm going to watch it, and we'll all get to laugh. Yep. And it'll just be a great time. And, of course, like us on the Facebook. And we will see you next week. So yeah, have fun playing Dota this week, guys. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow and Friday. And we will also see you this time next Tuesday. Talk to you guys later.